Good evening. Welcome to the League of Women Voters of Curry County's Special Districts Candidate Forum. This is the third of 3 scheduled forums. Tonight, we have candidates running for the Brookings Harbor Port Commission. These forums will be recorded and be available on lwvcurry.org and other social media. I am Georgia Allen, tonight's moderator. I'd like to introduce our voter service co-chairs, Charlie Alexander and Mary Jane LaBelle. Mary Jane is also our current league president. She will be co-hosting the Zoom along with Dennis Triglia. Dennis is a member of the league as well as the Voter Service Committee. Dennis will also be tracking tonight's questions and answers. Charlie is our timer. Candidates tonight are running for the Brookings Harbor Port Commission positions number 3 and 4. All candidates running for these contested positions have been invited to this forum. Let me begin with the League of Women Voters mission statement. The League of Women Voters, a nonpartisan political organization, encourages informed and active participation in government, works to increase understanding of major public policy issues, and influences public policy through education and advocacy. The League does not support or oppose candidates running for elected office. Any voting person can be a member of the League of Women Voters. We have both men and women members and invite you to join. So here are some ground rules for tonight. Unless you are speaking, please stay on mute. Candidates will be asked to speak in rotating order. Each candidate will be given 3 minutes for their opening statement. Once that portion is completed, we will go to the question and answers section of the forum. Questions have been collected from the public and league members prior to the forum. You will have 1.5 minutes to respond. Our timer, Charlie, will cue Mary Jane to put up the 30-second sign on the screen when you have 30 seconds left. When your time is up, a stop card will come on the screen. Can you both see that? Okay. I will now introduce the candidates. As previously mentioned, all contested candidates were invited to this forum. Gary Klein, candidate for position number 3, and Mike Murphy, candidate for Port Commission position number 4, have both declined the invitation. So we have the candidates for Brookings Harbor Port Commission position number 3, Larry Jones, and then for the Brookings Harbor Port Commission position number 4, Richard Heap. And so Larry, I'm going to have you go ahead and speak for 3 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Just clerical, last name is Jonas. Hi, my name is Larry Jonas. Yeah. My name is Larry Jonas. I would like the opportunity to serve and work for the Port of Brookings Harbor to help make the port fiscally sound and sustainable for businesses and for commercial and recreational fishing. My wife and I purchased our home in Brookings in 2012. We moved here in 2017 from Scottsdale, Arizona, where I retired after a 30-year career of public service with the city of Scottsdale. I had a well-rounded career with the city. In 1979, I started my life of public service in the Parks Department as a city worker and was promoted to a groundsman, doing landscape, maintenance, repairs, and janitorial duties. In 1982, I moved over to a position in the solid waste department. I worked my way up from the brush crew to container repair to heavy equipment operator with a commercial driver's license, and then became a solid waste field supervisor, where I was responsible for hiring and managing employees. I managed commercial and residential solid waste routes throughout the city, and I managed a multi-million-dollar budget. In 1998, I was offered a position as a code enforcement officer in the Community Development Services Department. I responded to complaints to inspect and identify city code violations. I issued warnings and citations, prepared cases for administrative, civil, and criminal hearings, and presented the case files in the courts of law. I conducted inspections for liquor license applications. I worked with citizens, businesses, city departments that included police, fire, building, planning, city attorney's office, and city mayor's office. After 11 years as a code enforcement officer, I retired in 2009. After I retired, I became a volunteer with the City of Scottsdale Fire Department, where I provided support to fire department and staff and residents. I volunteered at Roosevelt Lake Visitor Center in Arizona, where I provided information and directions to campgrounds, boat launches, boat slips, and boat rentals. I am an active member of the Oregon South Coast Fishermen's Club in Brookings. I serve on the board as a director at large. In 2013, I joined the Chedco River Station Coast Guard Auxiliary and was an active member for 5 years. I chose a life of public service because I always had desire to be part of something bigger than myself. The current commission, the port manager, and the port employees have worked well together over the past 3 years to accomplish many improvements and changes that have made the port more fiscally responsible and stable, moving the port in a positive direction. The port commissioners have built a cohesive team for the past 3 years. I know that my experience and knowledge from my 30 years in public service would be a good fit. I would appreciate your support and your vote. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and for Brookings Harbor Port Commission, position number 4, Richard Heap. Richard, 3 minutes.
Thank you. I would like to thank the League of Women Voters for giving us this opportunity to talk directly to the voters. And I am disappointed that not everybody's participating, so the voters can have an informed choice. I was born and raised in Northern Nevada in Reno, and I graduated from the University of Nevada. I worked for the Department of Wildlife there for 33 years. I've been married to my wife, Janice, for 45 years. We have 2 children and 2 grandchildren. I've owned property in Curry County for over 40 years, and I've been boating here since 1994. We moved to Oregon 18 years ago, and for the last 17 years, I've represented our local citizens, our region, and recreational fishermen on 8 different boards, panels, commissions, councils, and advisory groups. I'm currently the president of the Port of Brookings Harbor Commission. I am the chairman of the Pacific Fisheries Management Council Salmon Advisory Subpanel. I chair the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife Fish and Restoration Enhancement Board. I'm on the executive board of the Ocean Policy Advisory Council, and I serve as a fisheries advisor to the Pacific States Marine Fisheries Commission. I was appointed to the Port Commission by the county commissioners following the recall election in 2018. I was very concerned that we were on the verge of a major loss to our fishing fleet, our community, and our local economy. All of the activities I do on fisheries management and ocean policy revolve around public access to the ocean, and that access is provided through ports. So I felt it vital that I get involved in the port operation. My decision to apply for the position was driven by my conviction that I could bring to the commission a lifetime of experience in public service, government function, and real-world fisheries and ocean policy management that would enable me to best represent the interests of the Port District taxpayers and the citizens of Curry County. Our initial job was to stabilize the situation at the port and get the port operations going again. Our biggest challenge was to gain the confidence of the public and demonstrate that the port was stable and capable of meeting the demands of not only the day-to-day business, but also the realities of crumbling infrastructure, hiring a port manager, and 2 lawsuits. The former port manager was reinstated after thorough vetting by the new commission, and the lawsuits were settled without court action and by mutual consent of the parties. Since those early days, the Port Commission has tackled years of deferred maintenance, updated the strategic business plan, and moved forward to address our debt with Infrastructure Oregon. I'm asking voters to let me continue to work for you to keep our port a viable and thriving economic center for our community. Irrespective of who you vote for, I urge citizens to vote and meet their civic duty. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now we're going to go ahead and go into the questions. But before I do that, I neglected to introduce the newest member of our voter service committee. And Jean Jesuit, if you'd like to just put on your camera for a minute, I'd like to go ahead and just have you come on and say hello. or maybe not. Anyway, she is our new voter service committee. Oh, there she is, committee member, and she is just observing so that she'll understand next time when we have a Zoom meeting. So thank you for letting me do that. And my apologies, Jane, for not doing it earlier. So we're going to go ahead and go into the questions now. And again, you'll have a minute and a half to respond to them. So the first question is, and I'll start with you, Richard, is what do you see as the biggest challenges facing the organization that you're looking to serve on? This is a generic question that was given to all the organizations or candidates. So again, what do you see as the biggest challenges?
Boy, there's a lot there. Certainly, we are challenged with the infrastructure problems we're having at the port. We are having to take care of a lot of deferred maintenance and try and bring our facilities up to the condition we would like them in. The other challenge for the port has been financial. We have had a history of debt with Business Oregon that dates back to 2005. Over the last 3 years, we've been able to work with Business Oregon. Our manager particularly has worked with them to consolidate our debt, develop a payment schedule that will allow us to pay off the debt, which amounts to about $6 million over the next 9 years. As part of that, Business Oregon has agreed to freeze the interest at zero. And if we're able to pay that debt off, there is a possibility that some of the interest will be forgiven. The other challenge is making sure that our Port Commission functions smoothly. We happen to have a good mix of people right now. We have an atmosphere of congeniality. We work well together. We're free to speak our mind without fear of personal attack or some sort of reprisal or argumentative behavior, and that's been very healthy for us. I believe that the Port Commission helps to establish the entire culture for the port employees and the agency as well.
Okay, thank you. The same question for you, Larry. What do you see as the biggest challenges for the Brookings Harbor Port Commission? Oh, you have to take yourself off of mute.
Hello.
There you are.
Yeah, don't mean to just pair it off of Richard, but I believe that everything he said is true and accurate. Infrastructure is a big deal. It's evident. A lot of it has been taken care of or is in the process, but there's always going to be more. I would like to see personally more education of the public so they understand what the board is doing, what the board has to go through to accomplish the things they have to get done, and continue to secure grants, loans, whatever financing we need to make these things happen and do that in a fiscally responsible manner. That's it.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to ask you again, Larry, the next question will be for you first then. As a port commissioner, what do you see as the most important job element?
Most important job element. Well, there's probably more than one, but I guess the most is that the Port Commission keeps cohesive partnership amongst the commissioners so that they can work together and accomplish the things that need to be done. And again, that those things be done fiscally in a responsible manner. So that would be it.
Thank you. Richard, the same question.
Well, I'd certainly agree with Larry that the functioning of the Port Commission is vital. I think also it's important to understand what our statutory responsibilities and authorities are, which are enumerated in ORS Chapter 777. And one of the biggest issues that we have to deal with at the port is the regulatory side. We are bounded on one side by the Chetco River and then by the Pacific Ocean in front of us. each of which bring its own set of regulatory oversight, which we need to deal with. So anything that we do has to be carefully planned and has to be thoroughly screened in terms of regulatory compliance, and also carefully thought out so that we meet the needs of the infrastructure while respecting the fact that we have an impact on the environment here, and we need to be very conscious of that at all times.
Okay, thank you. And Richard, the next question will be for you too. Can you explain the difference between policy and operations?
Yes. In all the time I worked in government, this was one of the most complicated processes for commissions that I worked with. And so the commission's responsibility is to set policy and general direction for the port. We do not become involved in operations. Operations are the day-to-day functioning of the port. I mean, there is no place, no role whatsoever for a commissioner to work around the port manager and instruct employees what to do, to supervise or in any way impact them. So there's a very clear definition that we need to be mindful of between policy and operations.
Thank you. And Larry, the same question.
See a pattern here. I agree with Richard 100%. Commissioners do set policy. They do not control operations. Operations is controlled by the port manager. He directs them what needs to be done on a daily basis, and the commissioners just basically set policy. So that's it.
Okay, thank you. And then again, Larry, this question is for you. Do you support having festivals and music venues at the port? Why or why not? Explain, please.
Yes, I do support having festivals and music venues at the port. The port has public area, public facilities, and it is a public area in general, and that's what it's designed for. Part of its use anyway is for the public to come down and enjoy it. Festivals, music festivals, Slam and Salmon, Pirates, whatever's going on down there. The public has the right to use it safely and soundly, and it provides a source of income for the port, which is greatly needed. I do think at the present time, with the COVID and everything else financially going on, it's going to be kind of difficult to get that to happen. But yeah, it definitely needs to happen there.
Okay, thank you. And Richard, same question.
Yes, I support activities at the port. And they're important for the businesses we have located at the port. They're important for tourism. They're important for our community. But it's also important that those festivals and other events be carefully planned. We have currently been working with event sponsors to make sure that we have a thorough discussion about what's required and what they need to provide. One of the issues we always have at the larger festivals is parking and getting people to and from the boardwalk, which is where most of our festivals occur. And so there are mechanisms that have been used successfully by event sponsors to do that, using shuttle buses and some of those sorts of things. So I absolutely like to have those there. I think they're important for us, but I also think that we need to make sure that they're carefully planned and well-staffed, and the facilities are properly structured to handle the event.
Okay, thank you. And I'm going to piggyback and ask you another question, Richard. And that is, how do you plan to involve residents of the district in decision-making, and how will you keep them informed of district activities?
Well, certainly we invite people to our meetings. Frankly, I don't think our meetings are very well attended. They're noticed on our website, and I hope people become aware that we do have a very nicely designed website. We put most everything that we're going to do there, including the agendas. They can find the strategic business plan there and anything else that they want to know about the port. I speak to people on a regular basis and invite them to become involved with port activities by attending meetings and by becoming informed.
Okay, thank you. And Larry, would you like me to repeat the question or you have it? Okay, got it.
Please repeat it.
Okay, how do you plan to involve residents of the district in decision-making? How would you keep them informed of district activities?
I go to a lot, if not most or all of the commission meetings currently. And it's kind of sad to see that there's not more people there. I mean, common is 3 people, 4, unless someone's got something really important and they come down and they bring all their people with. But again, the website, the port website, meetings, word of mouth. I think it would be nice if we had another venue or avenue in which to get information out. I don't know, I don't see much in the newspaper, but I do believe they publicize the meetings in the newspaper. I think that would be good. And I personally would like to research and see if there's more ways to get it out to the public, to get more involvement. So again, so they know what's going on down there, because there's so much lack of communication to the public. I mean, between the public, they don't understand what goes on down there, and we need to find a way. I mean, it's not really our responsibility because we make it available, but encourage them maybe to get involved and research what's going on before the public gets upset or makes false accusations or does something silly. The information is there if they just ask.
Thank you. And Larry, you're on again. The next question is, what initiatives would you undertake as commissioner to support economic development in the region?
Economic development, I'm assuming you mean in the port itself, port property. I don't know how it's zoned specifically per area, but we need to make the best use we can of the property that we have, whether it's building getting a new business in there, a new building in there for a new business, their own. Again, using the land that we do have at its fullest potential, whatever that may be, instead of letting property lay idle or not getting the most income out of a piece of property that we can. We need to look at ways to boost that income from the property that we have. That's it.
Okay, thank you. And Richard, the same question. What would you do as a commissioner to support economic development in the region?
Well, Larry hit on one of the themes that we've been talking about in the commission up to this point, and that is looking at what property we have and trying to determine what its maximum public benefit would be. We're also trying to think ahead a little bit of the game here to position the port to be economically viable, given some of the things that are happening, particularly in the ocean. We've recently talked about with Congressman DeFazio about seeking some funds to build a treatment plant to treat the effluent that comes off of the BC Fisheries fish processing facility. There are some new DEQ requirements coming along, and it's going to be more complicated for them to discharge as they currently are. So we looked at doing that and providing opportunity for other fish processing plants to move into our community, and that helps ensure that our commercial fishermen have an opportunity to offload and have their catch processed here. So I think we're going to have to be very proactive and thinking ahead of the game a little bit to try and stay aware of what the changes are going to be and prepare ourselves as a port and port commission to be ready to deal with that.
Okay, thank you. On a similar vein, the next question is, what infrastructure initiatives would you support in order to maintain the long-term viability of the port?
Wow, there's lots of those. And again, I keep referring to the strategic business plan, but that's where we have looked at the next 10 years worth of development at the port. Some of the things that are mentioned in that are a development of a new RV park where the kite field currently sits. I mentioned the waste treatment facility. The site where the famous green building was is now being used for boat storage. We contemplate building a large RV and boat storage for large RVs and boats there. That's something this town is lacking. We're looking at expanding the retail center by adding another building and possibly in that building having a, I won't call it a convention center, but let's say it's an event center that could be used for meetings, weddings, special events and things like that. So we're again trying to look at our property and see what we can do to maximize the benefit for the community and to stimulate economic activities here.
Okay, thank you. And Larry, the same question for you. And the question is, what infrastructure initiatives would you support in order to maintain the long-term viability of the port?
I'm only familiar with actually what Richard just spoke about. I'm not real familiar with the long-range strategic plan. That's bad on me. But I know there's plans for the RV park, which is a moneymaker. Again, I think the waste treatment plant is a great idea. Hoping to bring more fish processing businesses into the port. Anything we can do financially, I should say fiscally responsibly, that doesn't damage the port or harm anything already in place that will generate income and new business and money being spent down there, I'd take a very serious look at.
Okay, thank you. And Larry, the next question is, what is your stance on climate change?
Well, that's a shocking question for a port commissioner because I don't know that. Me personally, I think climate change is out there. I think whether humans are on this earth or not, our climate's going to change. So I don't know how the port, our small 20 some odd acre port or however big it is going to affect climate change. Don't understand the question.
Yes, we get all kinds of questions. Thank you. Larry, I'm sorry, Richard, the same question. What is your stance on climate change?
Well, having been involved with the ocean for quite a while now, it's readily evident that it's here and the effects are accumulating. We see it more every year in changes in composition of species, changes in water chemistry, changes in water temperature, dissolved oxygen levels, and so on. So there's no doubt that it's here. And we need to be thinking proactively about how to address that. So certainly there needs to be some more than just local initiative, a global initiative undertaken to try and deal with this. From the perspective of the port and the Port Commission, again, I think we need to be acutely aware that things are changing. We need to prepare ourselves and our infrastructure to deal with that, particularly as it relates to the fishing community. And we need to be thinking about what the potentials are for the loss of certain species, Dungeness crab, for example. I'm not suggesting they're going away, but they are having issues. And so those are things that we have to be very cognizant of and aware of and thinking about.
Thank you. And the next question for you, Richard, is, in your view, is Representative DeFazio doing enough on the Transportation Committee to support critical port infrastructure? And what advice would you give him?
Well, I mentioned that we had visited with him at length last year about the waste treatment facility. We've also talked to him about repairing and refurbishing some of our receiving docks for the commercial fleet. And we've talked about other maritime activities that might occur at the port. And he pledged his support to help us where he could. He certainly listened carefully to what we had to say. Those other maritime activities could include a variety of things, including transshipment of lumber products in and out of here on barges. So I can't tell you specifically what he's doing, but he just recently reached out to us on the infrastructure bill as it relates to waste treatment facilities. So I think we have a pretty good dialogue with him and his staff, and I think will continue to work with them going forward to look at every opportunity we have for infrastructure development and funding.
Thank you. And Larry, the same question for you.
Okay.
Would you like me to repeat it?
Yeah, would you please?
Yes. In your view, is Representative DeFazio doing enough on the Transportation Committee to support critical port infrastructure? And what advice would you give him?
Total transparency, I know the port's working with him and has met with him, but I really don't know their relationship or what he's for or against with the port specifically, or what he's done to affect the port. I just don't know.
Okay. The next question, and I think this is our final question here, is how will your experience or leadership style affect the running of the port?
And that's for me.
And that is for you.
I'm hands-on and wanting to know what's going on, but I understand I don't do the work and I don't tell them how to do the work. I think I'm a good fit because I've managed people, I've managed large budgets, I understand fiscal responsibility, I understand revised statutes, state statutes, and how that we have to work within them. And also the port has to work with so many other agencies, as Richard stated before, got the ocean on one side, the river on the other side, and even stormwater coming in at the port off of a roadway. I mean, there's so many other agencies we have to work with, and having been in a government agency for over 30 years and having to deal with other agencies, not these specific ones, but understanding how government agencies work and their interagency agreements and all the inner workings of those agencies together. I think I've got a good start, a good handle on what it would take to do that.
Thank you. And Richard, the same question is, how will your experience or leadership style affect the running of the port?
Well, as I stated previously, I've got a lot of experience in government and how government works, and I can't even tell you how many 100 meetings I've chaired or run. So my management style is generally to be well informed, to listen carefully, to be calm, and focus on productive discussions and productive efforts. That's what I've tried to do since I've been on the Port Commission, and tried to make sure that that we send the signal to the public that we are competent, confident that we can get work done, and that there's no drama. And I think the results speak for themselves over the last 3 years. And frankly, it's not a prerequisite to have government experience or the background I do in fisheries, but it's certainly a value added when you're looking at candidates and their qualifications. I'm kind of like the farmer's insurance guy. I know a lot because I've seen a lot, and I try and bring all that experience and all the training I had while I worked for the state to the job of being a port commissioner.
Thank you. This completes tonight's Zoom candidate forum. The League thanks you, the candidates, for participating. As mentioned earlier, the candidate forum recordings will be available on lwvcurry.org shortly after this. Thank you both again, and have a good evening.
Thank you.